Hello everyone, welcome back. For those that are new here, my name is Maxwell. I'm an associate level therapist in California. I've worked with the homeless population, those with eating disorders, foster children. On this channel, I obviously talk a lot about mental health, how that impacts our life. Lately, I've been using it to talk about anxiety in the kitchen, how we can use that to become better chefs. This video is going to be a little bit different because I wanted to kind of circle back to one of my earlier videos. I want to talk about burnout. Because we all experience it. It happens more common in our lives than we would like for it to happen. Trying to get through it this past week for me has been a challenge. And there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube talking about burnout, how we can recognize it in our own lives, how to notice the symptoms for it. But the thing that I find really interesting is that as you're watching these videos over and over and over again, you're going to see that all the definitions are kind of different. There's not really a standardized way to define what burnout is, but we've all experienced it ourselves. So I know for me personally, when I experience burnout, there's two things that I remind myself that help me manage it and help me use those two strategies to manage burnout that I talked about in my earlier video. I'll try to find a way to link it somewhere on the screen right now. And the first thing is to remind myself that burnout isn't always necessarily a bad thing. Now, let me clarify. Obviously, it would be fantastic if nobody ever experienced burnout because we should all have a nice balance to our lives, be able to put in our work at work and then come home, enjoy our time doing hobbies or spending that time with our family and our loved ones. But the fact that we experience burnout gives us a cue that something in our life is out of balance and we should be doing something to realign that balance. Very much the same way that we experience anxiety. You know, anxiety, although it is a bad feeling that a lot of us don't like, it's a warning cue that our body gives us to tell us that we feel in danger. 10,000 years ago, anxiety was literally a factor of life or death. It kept us alive. Now, because we're in a much safer world compared to 10,000 years ago, that anxiety can really hijack our ability to rationalize through problems in our life when there's really nothing to be scared of. While burnout isn't on that level, meaning more times than not, when you experience burnout, it probably means that you're in an environment that isn't good for you and you should change it. There is a little bit of a caveat in there because I find that if I am experiencing burnout, I have two things that I can ask myself. Is it the environment that I need to change? Or is this an opportunity for me to grow? Because if work puts a lot of demand on you, as in there's, tasks to do and you have to get them done at a certain time, or you're being made to feel bad that you can't perform to the task that your boss wants you to, you bring that stress home. That stress lives in your mind constantly, and that prevents you from engaging in the hobbies you want to do, makes you want to lie on the couch, watch TV all day. That is obviously not good, and that should change. You can either leave the job because the job is too stressful. You can also advocate for yourself by talking to your boss, saying that you need a little bit more leeway. Or some people may look at this and say, this is an opportunity for me to improve my skill at work so that I'm able to perform to those duties, prove that I can do this for my boss, and possibly get a promotion or whatever goal have you. Now again, everybody has their own decision to make when they experience burnout, and if that decision is to leave, fantastic, more power to you. But life is all about change. We are always growing and learning skills, and that's what life does. Life puts stress on us, life puts anxiety on us to give us that sense we're afraid to do something, but a lot of times we have to engage in that fear to really learn the new skills that we need to learn. So that's the tough decision-making process. When I experience burnout in this work environment, is it worth it for me to put up with it? To put it another way, are the skills that I can learn to reduce this burnout going to improve my life dramatically? As another example, I have a fear of heights and I really hate roller coasters. So every time I'm at an amusement park and people want me to go on a roller coaster with them, I'll tell them, no, I just don't like that feeling and it's just not for me. They'll tell me that I'm not living life and I'm not really living life to the fullest. Like, why won't you get on the roller coaster? And my response to them is really simple. Like, me overcoming the fear of getting on roller coasters is not going to impact my life in a drastically good way. Yes, I may be able to overcome that fear and go on roller coasters, but learning to go on roller coasters is not going to get me a better job. It's not going to allow me to make more money. And to me, that's kind of a deal breaker. I don't need to get over that fear. I can have plenty of entertainment still at an amusement park without going on roller coasters. I don't need to overcome it. And it's the same way with work. If I'm going to overcome this burnout and learn the skills to overcome that stress, is this going to be better for me in my career? Now, as another example, as an associate level therapist, we experience burnout more commonly than most people because our jobs require us to deal with very severe cases, and a lot of times the jobs require us to be on call for certain weeks out of the year. So there is a lot more demand put on us, and people drop out of the profession because of the burnout after putting in the years to get your graduate degree and putting in the time to gain the hours that we've gained. So in my case, the population that I work with, I absolutely love, and that's the reason I got the job for doing it. But there are other factors that contribute to the burnout that I have. Not only is it the work demands, but it could be the work environment, could be the people that I work with, could be just the time requirements that it requires for me. All of that plays into the amount of stress that I have. So I make the tough decision if I'm going to stay with the company, work on those skills, or leave the company entirely and try to work with this population in a different company. And it's important to point out that just because I decide to do that for this company, if I choose to leave, doesn't mean that every therapist that's in this position has to leave this company. There are some therapists that would come in, take this position, and do perfectly fine with this type of population in this company. Which leads to the second thing that I remind myself all the time, and kind of touched on it, is that burnout is really subjective. Now, we tried to make burnout systematic by identifying diagnostic criteria. Like, for example, we have the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, and this is created by the American Psychiatric Association. In here, this is how we define criteria for generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, nearly every disorder that you've heard of. There's criteria in here such as, lack of interest in activities, yada, 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 lasts for 2 weeks or more, that sort of thing. And defining disorders and issues in this way really standardizes the whole process because it allows scientists to go out, conduct studies, define people who have generalized anxiety disorder based on the criteria met in here, and then see what forms of treatment are actually effective in reducing those symptoms. So the real interesting thing is that the DSM that we have here by the American Psychiatric Association doesn't have anything for burnout. The ICD, which is the International Code of Disorders, I think, just put it in to their system in 2019. So that's obviously an international system that defines burnout. But even then, burnout is in the category of life management difficulty, which is really just to say that it's an imbalance in, managing the stress that happens from our work. We kind of want to be able to disengage from our work when we come home, put that to the side, and be able to still relax and enjoy everything else that we have going on in life. So even though burnout can be diagnosable in the ICD, it's still a subjective experience for us because it is us in our unique life in this specific company engaging with the certain characteristics of that company. And if that conflict is too high for us and puts us in a state of alarm and alert and puts us in too much pressure, we're not able to drop that, and it kind of activates our hippocampus and our sympathetic nervous system too much, to where when we come home, that just kind of lives in our head. It either affects our self-esteem, it affects our mood, and it prevents us from wanting to really engage in the hobbies that make us curious or to really enjoy that time with our loved ones. And that's why, too, whenever you do experience that burnout, kind of goes back to point one, it is an opportunity for you to really evaluate if this job is a good fit for you. And if it is, if it provides you the opportunity to learn and develop those skills to where you can be making more money or apply those skills to make your life easier in some way, then it might be worth it to try sticking it out and seeing if there are skills to learn. But also, if learning those skills is going to put too much pressure on you, is going to put too much strain on you, is going to put your relationship with your significant other at risk, Is that worth it for you? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's easier to just cut that cord or advocate for yourself a little bit stronger. Again, everybody's story and situation is very unique, and I can't obviously give advice for everyone's specific situation in this one video. But case in point, from my perspective, burnout isn't so cut and dry as people might explain it on other videos or online. It's a personal, subjective experience that we all have gone through numerous times in our lives, and we all have to individually evaluate if it's worth for us to learn the skills to push through that burnout or to leave it all together. And obviously, I believe there are those companies that just create burnout for everyone that works there because it is either a toxic work environment, doesn't give you the necessary time to rest, and if you find yourself in that situation, it's probably going to be a good idea to leave for your own mental health's sake. And part of life, again, is to continue to learn and grow, and it may just be one of those learning lessons when you find yourself in that company to leave and never return.